What if happiness keeps missing your calls on purpose? I have a strange theory. What if happiness is not lost? What if it is not hiding? What if it is not located on a beach in Greece, inside a mountain cabin, or somewhere between a promotion and a better mattress? What if happiness knows exactly where you are? What if it sees your calls every single day? And what if it keeps pressing decline, not because it dislikes you, not because it is busy, not because it changed its number, but because every conversation always goes the same way? Imagine happiness answering the phone. Hello? Hi, is this happiness? Yes? Great, I'll call back when everything is finally under control. Click, that would get old very quickly. Maybe happiness has heard that conversation millions of times. People spend years preparing for a life they never actually arrive in. As children, we wanted to become adults. As teenagers, we wanted to finish school. As students, we wanted a job. As employees, we wanted a better job. Then we wanted more money. Then a bigger apartment. Then a nicer neighborhood. Then a newer car. Then a better version of the newer car. At some point, people start upgrading things that were already upgrades. The strange part is that every upgrade comes with the exact same promise. This one will do it. This one is the missing piece. This one is finally enough. Then 6 months later, it becomes normal. Human beings are probably the only creatures capable of getting bored with things they once prayed for. A dog receives food and reacts like it won the lottery. A human receives something they dreamed about for 5 years and says, "Interesting." Then they open a spreadsheet. Maybe happiness keeps missing our calls because we keep treating it like a destination. We act as if happiness is waiting behind a specific door. The problem is that every time we open a door, we discover another hallway. Life is full of hallways. Entire industries exist because of hallways. Advertising is basically a professional hallway designer. A commercial never says, "You already have enough." Imagine that a man appears on television. He looks directly into the camera. He says, "Honestly, your current life seems fine." Then the commercial ends. That company would be bankrupt before lunch. The modern economy runs on a very simple idea. Someone must always feel one step away from becoming complete. Complete people are terrible customers. Imagine walking into a store and saying, "No thanks. I already feel fulfilled." Security would escort you out because you are clearly behaving suspiciously. Sometimes I wonder if happiness stopped answering because we only call when something is wrong. Nobody phones happiness on a random Tuesday. Nobody says, "Hello, happiness. Nothing special happened today. I just wanted you to know that lunch was pretty good." No, people usually call happiness the same way people call emergency services. Something happened. Something is missing. Something went wrong. Maybe happiness is sitting somewhere with its friends. Maybe confidence is there. Maybe peace of mind is there. Maybe contentment is there. And happiness says, "I don't know what to do anymore. Every time they call me, they already decided I live somewhere else." The others nod. Confidence takes a sip of coffee. Peace of mind stares out the window. Contentment quietly eats a sandwich because contentment is always eating a sandwich. Then happiness checks its voicemail. "Hi, it's me again. I think I'll finally be happy after summer." Delete. "Hi, it's me. Maybe after I lose 10 pounds, delete. Hi, it's me. Maybe after I make more money, delete. Hi, it's me. Maybe after I find the right relationship." Delete. Years pass. The messages become more complicated. "Hi, it's me. I found the relationship. Turns out I need a bigger apartment. Delete. Hi, it's me. I got the apartment. Turns out I need a different career. Delete. Hi, it's me. I changed careers. Turns out I need inner peace. Delete. At some point, happiness probably stops checking voicemail. Can you blame it? Humans are fascinating. We can transform almost anything into a problem. You could place a person inside a beautiful garden, birds singing, sunlight everywhere, fresh air, flowers, and within 10 minutes the person says, "I wonder if there is a better garden." That thought alone has probably powered civilization for thousands of years. It built cities. It created technology. It sent people into space. But it also created a strange side effect. Nobody knows when to stop looking. The search becomes permanent. People begin searching for things they already possess. Someone says, "I just want peace." Meanwhile, they are standing peacefully in their kitchen holding coffee. Someone says, I wish life would slow down. Then they spend 3 hours scrolling through videos at double speed. Someone says, I miss the present moment, while actively ignoring the present moment. Human beings are incredibly talented, not always in useful ways. One day I realized something strange. The happiest moments in my life usually arrived without permission. They never appeared on a schedule. They never announced themselves. There was no email, no countdown, no notification, no loading screen. They simply happened: a conversation, a joke, a sunset, a random afternoon, a memory that seemed ordinary at the time. Looking back, many of the moments I spend chasing happiness are not the moments I actually remember. The things I remember are weirdly small: a road trip, a stupid laugh, a meal with friends, a rainy day, a moment that nobody would have considered important, which makes me suspicious. What if happiness prefers disguises? What if happiness never arrives dressed as success? What if it shows up wearing sweatpants? What if happiness is not the grand finale? What if it is the background character that keeps getting edited out of the movie because we are too busy looking at the main plot? That would explain a lot. Because most people are not waiting for happiness. They are waiting for permission. Permission to relax. Permission to enjoy life. Permission to stop comparing themselves to strangers. Permission to admit that maybe this moment is enough. The strange thing is that nobody seems qualified to grant that permission. Everyone is waiting for someone else. Meanwhile, life keeps moving. Not quickly. Not slowly, just steadily. Like a cashier scanning items while customers argue about which line is faster. And perhaps happiness keeps missing our calls because every time it tries to visit, we are busy preparing for a future meeting with it. Maybe that is the biggest misunderstanding of all. People think happiness lives in the future. The future has incredible marketing. The future always sounds amazing. Future you wakes up early. Future you exercises. Future you drinks enough water. Future you reads books. Future you understands taxes. Future you finally answers emails. Future you somehow becomes the kind of person who enjoys kale. Current you does not trust that version at all, but still believes in him. Every year millions of people hand responsibility to future you. Future you is the hardest working employee in human history. Current you keeps assigning projects. Future you keeps receiving them. Nothing is ever completed. Imagine being future you. You finally arrive. You open the door. A mountain of unfinished plans falls directly on your head. Future you never asked for this. Future you is basically a storage unit for abandoned optimism. Maybe happiness keeps missing our calls because it knows we are talking to the wrong person. We keep negotiating with future you. Meanwhile, present you is standing right there. Ignored like the middle child of time. Nobody asks present you what he wants. Everybody asks future you. People spend years building a perfect future and accidentally forget to attend their own lives. Which is strange because eventually the future arrives. Then instantly becomes the present. Then immediately gets ignored again. Human beings treat time like a customer service representative. We spend all day asking for another department. Can you transfer me to next year? Can you transfer me to a better version of myself? Can you transfer me to the part where everything finally makes sense? The line disconnects. The line always disconnects. Nobody reaches that department. One thing I noticed about happiness is that it never appears during comparison. Never comparison. Is like happiness repellent. The moment you compare your life to someone else's life, happiness quietly climbs out the nearest window. Social media turned comparison into a professional sport. Thousands of people wake up every morning and immediately compare their behind-the-scenes footage to someone else's movie trailer. Then they wonder why they feel exhausted. Imagine comparing a normal Tuesday to a highlight reel. That is like comparing a sandwich to fireworks. Of course, the sandwich loses. But sandwiches were never designed to compete with fireworks. Neither was real life. Real life is mostly sandwiches. That is not a bad thing. In fact, most good lives are surprisingly sandwich-shaped. Simple, ordinary, quiet. Unfortunately, ordinary has terrible public relations. Nobody posts. Today was acceptable. Nobody uploads. Nothing dramatic happened, and honestly, I am grateful. No, everything must be extraordinary. Everything must be life-changing. Everything must become content. Somewhere along the way, people stopped collecting moments and started collecting evidence. Evidence that they were happy. evidence that they were successful, evidence that their life mattered. The strange thing is that happiness rarely enjoys being photographed. The moment people notice happiness, they often interrupt it. Imagine laughing with friends. Everybody is having fun. Then someone says, "Wait, we need a picture." The conversation stops, everyone freezes. The moment becomes a document. The happiness survives, but it changes shape. Maybe happiness keeps missing our calls because every time it arrives, we immediately start measuring it. How happy am I? Am I happy enough? Should I be happier? Other people seem happier. Can happiness be upgraded? That sounds ridiculous. Yet millions of people do exactly that. Imagine ordering ice cream. The ice cream arrives. Instead of eating it, you spend 20 minutes wondering if another flavor would have made you happier. Eventually, the ice cream melts. Now nobody is happy. Life contains a surprising number of melted ice cream situations. Another strange thing about happiness is that it appears to have terrible timing. You want it during important moments, big moments, historic moments. But happiness often shows up during completely random situations. You are folding laundry. Suddenly happy. You are driving home. Suddenly happy. You are making coffee. Suddenly happy. You are walking somewhere. Suddenly happy. This is extremely inconvenient for people who prefer schedules. Happiness refuses to cooperate. Maybe that is why so many people struggle to find it. They keep searching in places where it never agreed to be. A lot of people treat happiness like a reward. Work hard first, suffer first, worry first. Then happiness. But what if happiness was never supposed to be the reward? What if it was supposed to help during the process? That would change everything. Imagine refusing to drink water until after finishing a marathon. That seems ridiculous. Yet many people do something similar emotionally. They postpone joy, postpone gratitude, postpone peace, postpone life itself, always waiting, always preparing, always arriving somewhere that immediately becomes another departure point. The modern world is full of people standing in airports that exist only inside their minds. Nobody stays. Everybody is boarding something. A goal, a plan, a dream, a new version of themselves. Meanwhile, the current version keeps standing at the gate holding all the luggage. Maybe happiness keeps missing our calls because it already left several messages. Maybe we just never listened. Maybe happiness was the conversation that made you laugh so hard you forgot your own point. Maybe happiness was the meal you barely remember because you were busy checking notifications. Maybe happiness was the weekend you spent planning the next weekend. Maybe happiness was the ordinary day you called boring. Years later, that same day becomes one of your favorite memories. Life is full of moments that become valuable only after they expire, which is an absolutely ridiculous system. Imagine buying milk that becomes delicious after it expires. Nobody would accept that, yet memory works exactly that way. A random Tuesday from 10 years ago can suddenly become priceless. Not because it was extraordinary, because it was yours. And perhaps happiness understands something that we don't. Perhaps happiness knows that life is mostly made from ordinary days. Not milestone days, not trophy days, not victory days. Ordinary days. And if you cannot find happiness there, you probably won't find it anywhere else. Because eventually every extraordinary moment becomes an ordinary memory. Every finish line becomes a starting line. Every achievement becomes normal. Every dream becomes reality. Then reality becomes routine. Then routine becomes invisible. Humans have an incredible ability to stop seeing things that are already theirs. Maybe happiness keeps missing our calls because it is tired of being treated like a visitor. Maybe it has been living in the house the entire time. Maybe we are the ones who keep leaving.